Welcome to Catholic Champion. I'm your host, John Yep, and my co-host, Michael Hichborn. I'm also a friend of Charlie Kirk, and right now, that's what we're going to talk about in this show, over at the assassination of a friend and a warrior for Christ and for America. Stay tuned. Michael, you realize it was 1 week ago. You and I we had just finished our show. Yep. What was it? Maybe like an hour later that that we found out. I don't know. How did you find out the news?
Somebody texted it to me like minutes after it happened. And I mean, I was immediately shocked and went to social media for prayer. And when I saw the video, I have to say, when I saw what happened, I was pretty certain that he wasn't going to survive, even minutes after it had taken place.
I was driving away and got a call from Taylor Marshall. It was quick. Taylor called me right away and just said, "Hey, shots fired, no joke. Charlie's been hit."
Yeah.
And just, I think from that moment, just again, 1 week ago today, he was there in Utah, the university, speaking. The country, the world's kind of been turned upside down in so many ways, right? So it's been now, this is the eighth day since it's happened. We have the funeral, of course, is going to be on Sunday at State Farm Stadium. We will be there. Catholics for Catholics will be there on the ground covering it in person, attending the service for Charlie. But I think right now it's important just to kind of step back. This is a major event. This is not, yes, it's the loss of a friend, and I'm going to talk about some personal stories with him towards the end of the show, but as I've already done too, and we've also done the most important thing too. We've been praying, right? Catholics for Catholics has been first and foremost. Right after it happened, we had 12,000 people praying live rosary with Bishop Strickland in that space between when he was shot and before we got the news that he had gone to the other side. And then that night we put together very quickly a rally that 500 people. I know there were a lot of vigils that happened, but that vigil was unique because that was literally right around Charlie's neighborhood, parish, church, and it was those people that just got there together. No fear. We just stood there, we prayed, and the thousands joined online. And then just last night, we had, and maybe we could throw that Newsmax a picture on the screen so you could see that, or pictures from last night. We had a rally with just the Catholics in the local area. It's like, I don't know, Michael, what it is. Maybe you've seen this too. I mean, online, just how people just have like a need to be together, to get out and to do something, which is pretty remarkable in the face of this all, right? Of this intimidating act. So
anytime there's a tragedy, people feel the need to corral. They need to get together, and they need to see each other, and they need to touch their loved ones and talk to their loved ones. And it's a natural response to a real tragedy. But I think what made this different is the fact that it was somebody who was so prominent, who was not a politician. He was not somebody who was he had political power. It's not like he was a decision maker or a legislator. He was a man who was holding conversations. He was holding dialogues with young people. And what made this, that adds to this. But really what made this so different is just how visible his death was.
What you're seeing right now on the screen, that's the quasi-impromptu rosary rally that we organized yesterday. 2,500 people showed up, Catholics from around the Phoenix area. Newsmax, you saw the Newsmax article there. And we had a Catholic priest leading us in the rosary. Jesse Romero was there. Jack Posobiec gave some words. And just you got, Michael, I mean, the pictures you see don't do it justice with the amount of flowers, American flags, pictures of the Lord, crosses that are all over Turning Point, right? It's it sucks the air out of your chest when you go there and you just see the outpouring of love there. So it's that was last night, but people want to get together, and I think this is important time for our country to realize what's going on. So to do that, okay, so we're 7-8 days after this event. Okay, I know the funeral's on Sunday, but a lot's happening right now. Speed of news, and what we want to just do right now in this show is step back and look at what are the four causes, as we know it up to this point, of Charlie's assassination. Right?
Sure.
Say four causes. This is from Aristotle, right? The way you define the thing, okay? The best way to define a thing is to define it according to the four causes. What are we defining? The assassination of Charlie Kirk, okay?
Right.
Founder and president of Turning Point USA, right? So that's important for a lot of reasons, because just to help us process, but also analyze what happened and where are we going, okay? So just like a recap, the four causes we're going to go over. The material cause, okay? It explains this is like the substance or matter from which an object is made, like the thing, or how did it happen?
Yep.
Then we'll go into the efficient cause. This is the agent or process that brings something into existence or causes it to change. Okay, it's all related to the assassination. And then the formal cause. This refers to the form, shape, pattern, or essence, or something behind it which makes it what it is. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to get into the final cause, the purpose, the goal, or reason for which the object or for which the assassination happened. Okay. Okay. Material cause.
So let's
go ahead.
Just so people understand, it's very easy to get kind of lost in philosophical terminology. I think it would be helpful to put this into a tangible perspective. So if we want to talk about the material, formal, efficient, and final causes of this, we should probably give them a basic example. So let's talk about the eye. Okay, it's a very easy thing to go into. The material cause of the eye is the matter which composes the eye, the lens, the cornea, the retina, all the different elements of what makes up an eyeball. Okay, the formal cause is what is the pattern for it, what allows it to actually exist. And so when we talk about the formal cause, the form of the eye is such that light enters into it and is projected on the back where the retina is. It was done for a particular purpose, which is the final cause. But the efficient cause is what's the mechanism that makes it work? How does it happen? How did it come into existence? That kind of thing. And then the final cause is what's its purpose, and the purpose of an eyeball is to see. So now if we want to extrapolate that and look into the material, formal, efficient, and final cause of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, starting with the material cause, you just look at what is the matter that makes up an assassination. That would be an assassin, a weapon, and then the execution of that weapon. That's the material cause, all the matter that makes up what an assassination is. So
go ahead. Yep.
Assassin, weapon, and victim. That's the material cause. The formal cause is the arrangement. What put it into place? Now, if we want to talk about this in terms of criminal justice, which I think is probably the easiest way to explain it, the formal cause would be all the forensic evidence that we see with regard to how it was executed, how it was put into place. You're talking about the placement of the weapon, who was there, why was he there, was he coordinating with anybody, were there more people involved, was the layout of the situation a participant or an element of what made up this whole situation. Go ahead and jump in. I mean, you were about to say something. I cut you off.
No. I mean, hopefully this schema is it's how. I mean, Michael and I are both. I have a philosophy degree. I think you too as well, Michael. This with all the noise out there, just take this kind of break this down to help process and also analyze what's going on here. What has just happened, right? It seems to be like a very easy way to tell me personally, like, okay, put things in its place and break things down, right? So as you were saying, Michael, material cause, the most basic is a Mauser rifle. Okay,
Yep.
It's a piece of steel. Okay, that ended the life of a man. Okay, yes, hit him in the neck. Saw those images. I also confirmed too yesterday with someone very close who had just knows security guards, friends all around it, had all the access footage. There was an exit wound. Okay, very big exit wound actually.
Well, there had to have been.
Absolutely.
There had to have been. It only hit soft tissue. There was nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing to stop the bullet.
Mm-hmm. It was very gruesome, obviously. So that's the easiest material cause, right? Okay, and they're gonna do the work, the rifle, the shots, the ballistics, all that, just to make sure, confirm how that all angled, fine, whatever. This is almost like in sequential order of importance too. Like the least important in some ways is the material cause. We know what it is. Okay, it's a piece of steel. Okay, killed them. A fishing cause. Okay, Tyler Robinson. Okay, that's so what we know right now. Obviously, it's like a young man that was arrested. I don't think he's actually admitted to. He's admitted yet that he's guilty. He is in custody. Right, his dad drove him in. So he probably, I would assume, probably told his dad though before, as Michael, you and I were chatting before, that he killed him. But we assume that it is. It was on the rooftop. Now there's debate back and forth, right? None of us are coming in these four causes, aside from really the final cause. I'm not making like this is officially it. Okay. For me, a little bit up in there still is the formal and efficient cause. But Tyler Robinson, the guy who actually pulled the trigger, that's what the efficient cause. Who actually pulled the trigger? What human agent? Okay. As far as we know, it's Tyler. However, there is debate about this. And I want to play a clip right now, and Michael, and just have you comment afterwards on this from what we know so far. Let's play the Michael Savage clip, and let's make sure to, if we can, hopefully we edit it out. There's a couple cuss words, so we're going to bleep those out if we can. Actually, the Bannon clip. Let's do the Bannon clip. The Bannon clip, okay?
And walked in with that script to a producer. The first thing they were saying, that's too on the nose.
So Steve is basically commenting right now on the text messages exchange, which were released yesterday by the FBI between Tyler Robinson and his lover, his boyfriend, that sinful relationship, right, that he has. So these are the purported messages that were sent by Tyler right after the shooting. We do not have timestamps yet, mind you. All they did was release the script. It would have been nice if they released the timestamps. They didn't. This is Steve Bannon commenting this morning on those text messages. Let's play the cut.
Those, you're too specific. It seems like you got to learn how people think in these situations when the guy just supposedly gunned down Charlie Kirk in cold blood on a shot that, putting the muzzle together, and all the video they show, one minute he's peg-legged, the next minute he's not peg-legged, right? 1 minute he's walking through the neighborhood, the peg-legged, the next he's walking through with shorts on. 1 minute he's using the Dodge Charger, the next minute he's not. 1 minute he's jumping off a roof of a building, the next minute, he's got the rifle. Michael Savage is still correct on this. So and then the write-up, and like the ABC guy said, it's so detailed. It's such a roadmap. I'm just not. It's too on the nose. It's too scripted. People in those situations are not. You're so jacked up. You're so afraid they're going to come and get you and kill you, right? The cops are either going to kill you or, you're going to die in some gunfight. And he said, "Hey, it told people I want to take my life. You're toward the end of your run here. You're not sitting there going, yeah, I'll be back in a couple of days. Like on a business trip. What are you at a convention? He's at a convention. I'll be back in a couple of days, sweetheart. Right? Make sure there's a pot of coffee on when I get back. What is it? Leahy, I don't know. Your thoughts and observations.
Well, I share your skepticism about those text messages. It's almost as if they are choreographed to get the roommate / lover man transitioning to be a woman, to get that individual outside the scope of the investigation. It just could be that. And you're right, it does seem very, very detailed, very, very measured, and not the kind of frenetic intense communication that you might expect to have if this happened in real time. I think what's going to happen on this, Steve, my view would be they are going to keep the alleged assassin in isolation, but go through very serious questions and investigations to point out and to really push and see what is
so,
real, what is not
Michael,
real.
I'm going to have you comment right there. I mean, that's just commentary from this morning on the War Room about the text messages. Thoughts on that?
So I like to look, the text messages sound weird. I will fully admit that. However, when dealing with a crime which will be prosecuted in a courtroom, you have to have substantiated evidence that's going to go into the nature of these text messages. It's not like they're just going to show the text messages on a screen and say, this is what they said back and forth, because the defense is going to say, okay, where did those messages come from? Show us forensically where they came from. They're going to have to be able to show that not only did they have these messages, but they obtained them from two phones, the one sending and the one receiving. So if they have those phones and they are able to show forensically, yes, with telephone records from the telephone company proving that, yes, these messages were sent in real time at this time between these two individuals, then you have corroborating evidence to substantiate that this is an authentic exchange, how weird it may sound. Now, if you want to talk about just the nature of the conversation, absolutely, it sounds really strange. It's really bizarre. Who's going to sit there and write out these paragraphs explaining what they had just done just after they did it? That's a big question, and it's a huge red flag. But if you can't counter that with counter evidence to say, well, this actually disproves the phone records, what we have in the two devices themselves, then you have to accept this as it stands and say, this guy was so deranged, he actually sat and thought this out and typed it out and everything else. So I don't know how to answer this without getting around the forensic evidence of the two phones themselves.
You just think that, like, because there was timestamps released by the FBI about he entered Utah University at this time.
Mm-hmm.
He climbed the roof at this time. The shot was rung on at this time. So we get very clear timestamps right there. You'd think you'd get those with the text messages later on. I mean, so far there's like Tyler seems to be the most obvious person that took this shot. Okay. But it doesn't mean, again, the guy hasn't even admitted that he's guilty yet, but it just doesn't add up all yet. And I'm just hoping that we can get to the bottom of this very quickly. Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, I think so. I mean, at this point in time, Tyler Robinson has not admitted guilt. They say that he's not cooperating. However, his father says that he admitted guilt to him. There are other people who are giving corroborating evidence, corroborating stories to say, yeah, he was actually kind of hinting at this kind of thing. And, you know, there's circumstantial evidence. There's eyewitness testimony. And I think it's a very difficult case to make to say that the narrative that we're being given is somehow false. On the other hand, right now, what we have is simply the statements being given to us. We've not actually heard what his parents said because his parents aren't speaking to the media. We've not heard directly from eyewitnesses necessarily. So we have what is being presented is a narrative. And my concern is that if this is a narrative that's being generated just to kind of form our preconceived ideas of what happened, then they're going to necessarily have to put an end to the perpetrator before it goes to trial. Because at the trial, all of this forensic evidence is where it comes out. But if there's no person to try, then there's no reason to have forensic evidence, and their narrative stands. So that's where you start getting into certain concerns about how much is being done to make sure this guy doesn't A, off himself, or B, get taken out by somebody else in the jail.
Absolutely. Let's play the Michael Savage clip as long as we can bleep out the cussing, because it's just a 2-minute clip. What he talks about, it's kind of the frustration some of us are feeling. A lot of us are feeling, not just some of us. With how this investigation is going. I'll pull that up.
to go up against this FBI, the MAGA FBI. Something's very wrong with what I just heard. I mean, I watched it. I was hoping that they had caught the bastard who shot Charlie. So we saw a video of a person jumping off the roof. It looked very legitimate to me. However, there was no rifle in his hand. Now, the Mauser does not break down very easily, incidentally, for those of you who know weapons. Something's wrong with the whole thing. They're trying to claim he removed the barrel from the Mauser and fit the receiver and stock in his backpack and barrel in his pants leg, all in 2 seconds. It is not easy to remove a Mauser barrel or index it after reinstalling and remain accurate. We are not hearing or seeing reality. And by the way, the photo of the rifle allegedly left in the woods has the barrel installed. So we're supposed to believe a guy is on the run after killing Charlie Kirk, and he pauses in the woods to reinstall a barrel, and then he leaves it for us to find, the FBI to find. I don't believe a word of it. I shouldn't do this. I know I'm putting myself at risk, but I can't take it anymore. I can't take the bullshit. Fucking government.
We'll cut it there.
Something's wrong.
So just there is, and again, part of the expletives, we meant to edit that out, but the what I think a little bit, again, we don't know. Forgive us for even like questioning this stuff, okay? Like have some understanding. Like this is the same. I mean, this is the United States where for 60 odd years we've been begging for the full files of the release of JFK, you know, and only to find out 60 years later, as we were all screaming from the rooftop, or our parents were anyways, that there was probably another shooter, that the CIA was probably involved with this. So, you know, forgive us if, you know, and then you go to RFK and what's everything going on with that shooting back in 1968, June 4th. So forgive us if I first got a little bit skeptical. I mean, it's almost healthy to do that. And I do appreciate, Michael, you know, you very much look into stuff. You always analyze stuff, and you like, I know you probably believe that the CIA was involved with the assassination of JFK, but this one, you're still taking a measured approach and saying, okay, what's really going behind? I appreciate that. Comments on that clip.
So he has questions and concerns about the breakdown of the barrel, the deposit in the woods. Here we have
a screwdriver too. The guy leaves a screwdriver on top. So like, okay, how did he what, put it back together then? Or
right. Okay. So
who does that? Who puts the gun back together again after you just shoot somebody, and then sends like perfectly punctuated grammatical text messages to your boy lover?
But this is where you have to separate narrative from evidence. Okay.
From where?
Narrative from evidence.
Got it.
Okay. Narrative tells us how things happened and what sequence they happened in and who did what and who was standing where and what they think happened. A lot of it is theory. So when you have a narrative, you kind of have to look beyond the narrative and say, what is the concrete evidence that we have? Can we say without a doubt through ballistic evidence, you know, looking at the angle of the entry wound and its exit, looking at the impact of the bullet behind where Charlie Kirk was sitting, you know, where did it impact on the ground? You can triangulate exactly where the origin point of that ballistic came from. Okay, we can do this. They do it all the time.
Of course, it doesn't help that they just remove the grassy area. Why so soon? I mean, okay, I know, but
but again, this is narrative versus evidence. Let's look at the evidence first.
This is the same like department of, I mean, not the same because it's different administration, but don't forget, after Butler, they were power washing the top of the roof where Thomas Crookston said,
they destroyed evidence there. I mean, that there's no
again, pardon us. We still don't even know what the 8 cell phones that Thomas Crookston has. So for us questioning this, like, have some understanding. If you're like, oh, come on, just shut up with the conspiracy stuff. Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. Well, so you can triangulate the origin of the bullet. So you can say whether that little spot where they found the disturbance in the gravel and the elbow print and the knee print and all that kind of stuff, where he was taking position to shoot the bullet, you can say yes or no, whether it came from that point or not. Then you can line up and match up the bullet with that weapon with a ballistics report very quickly and say, this bullet did or did not come from that Mauser. All right. If it did come from that Mauser, then the rest of the narrative is almost irrelevant. You know, did he break it down? How did he break it down? Where did he go with it? It's irrelevant. If you can say that Mauser fired that bullet and that Mauser did belong to his grandfather, you've got a chain of custody of evidence that points directly at him. So all the narrative stuff is kind of ancillary to the whole thing. Now, if you want to say, how did he get down from the roof? What do we see with our own eyes with the video evidence that we have? Not much, because the video is incredibly grainy. It's very difficult to see how much of that backpack is covering, you know.
That alone is odd for me. I'm sorry, but like, you have a university which has cameras everywhere, okay, with very good resolution.
Well,
I mean,
is it? How do we know?
Probably in this day and age, at least a little bit, you know, I mean, who knows? But
I mean, even Ring cameras are pretty bad. So
what I think, again, we're going to the 4 causes: material cause, bullets, steel, whatever, Mauser rifle. Efficient cause, probably Tyler Robinson at this point. Okay. Again, this is sequential order. So these like in order of importance. Okay. So I'm going to shift gears right to the formal cause on that. Like, what are the forces that may have been behind helping Tyler Robinson? I think you and I both agree that there was at least accomplices to this murder, or people that probably knew that knew information surrounding this, whether on his group chats, his boyfriend. I mean, would you agree with that?
We have evidence that there were people that had foreknowledge. I remember seeing about 2 weeks before what happened to Charlie Kirk, I saw with my own eyes on X somebody saying something, watch out for September 10th, something's going to happen. I saw that post.
Right.
And I mean, I thought, well, that's weird. You know, I kind of dismissed it. I didn't really think about it. And then I forgot about it. But when I saw that post show up again, I recognized it immediately because I had seen it with my own 2 eyes. So there were definitely people who had foreknowledge. And another element to this is that the FBI has released, now again, this goes to narrative rather than evidence, because we don't have the physical, tangible evidence before us, but they are telling us that there were Discord conversations with multiple people indicating that this was being planned and executed not by one person alone, but by a group of people. So why we also know that an organization called Armed Queers of Utah is now being implicated in conspiring with this group to put this conspiracy together. So again, if the evidence if it bears out to what the FBI is saying that it does, then this is pretty much an open shut case. The question is this going to go to trial where we can actually examine the evidence itself? They're not going to give us the evidence because that's part of the whole legal maneuvering. You know, when you're ready to go to trial, you don't have the tangible evidence that you're going to hand over to the defense until it's time to do so. You don't want the defense to have as much time to examine it and figure out the different ways of saying, oh, that's not really the evidence you think it is. You don't want to give them that time. So you're going to wait until it gets a trial date, until you go to trial, and then you're required to present your evidence to the defense, and then the defense is able to scrutinize it. But until we get to that point, all we have from those conversations is a narrative.
Fair enough. That's a good point too, and that might lead to why we don't have necessarily all the stuff, the receipts that there might be like the prosecution, right? Because they want to wait till the trial. But I also remember seeing those similar notes on social media. I think I was Naomi Wolf, I want to say, that did a report on all the different groups that were actually talking about this assassination coming up on September 10th, the start of Charlie's America Comeback Tour, which ironically, even though it ended, the America Comeback Tour ended. I mean, it's been American comeback all of its own, right? With the mass returning of people to the church and Jesus, and we'll get into that later. But okay, so other causes or things behind this. And now this is a little bit tricky topic. Okay, I want to bring this up. I'm not saying necessarily that They're causally related. But as we try to get in the head of Charlie, okay, what was going on in his world? Who were his enemies? Who were the people that stood to benefit from this assassination? It's Sherlock Holmes 101, right? It's how you identified the murderer.
Cui bono.
What's that?
Cui bono. Who benefits?
To whom benefits? Exactly. So who could those be? Like, what was going on in his psychology? I mean, again, some of this is only Erica knows, or him, or God knows, right? But I think that there is some things coming out, and I think a fair pursuit of justice should look at some of these things going on. Yes, there's the massive, I mean, the trans community. We know what's going on with them. Again, I want to be upset with them. I am upset with them, but at the same time, I also have a lot of mercy and understanding for them, because they've been sold so many lies by these corrupt pharmaceutical companies and the left, which is just shove this down these kids' throats since they were very young, that you could be gender fluid, you could change genders, you could marry a boy, all that stuff. I mean, we've created just these people who are just hurting so much deep down. They have a lot of rage. Some of them have chemical hormones pumping through them. You know, these are in. I really feel bad for them. Like, my heart goes out to them. Like the trans shooter in Minnesota. Yes, what they did is a horrible, evil act. I mean, they're going to get the justice they got from God, but they've been lied to. The real bad guys are the people that created the lies. But I think that's an element of a potential formal cause. It's like the people that are creating these trans individuals, right? I mean, is that fair? Is that fair, Michael? I mean, that's there's culpability there for these mass shootings, which have been done by trans shooters. Not every trans shooter is going to do that. Not my point at all. But it's a mental illness, right?
It's worse than a mental illness. It's child abuse.
It's child abuse.
It's child abuse. And what we know about certain particular kinds of trauma is that you can fracture the psyche of the individual who is the victim of that kind of trauma. And most people who are indoctrinated into the trans ideologies have some sort of trauma that gets exploited so that they become radicalized and formed in this ideology that they can change their nature. And the thing that we have to realize about the trans agenda is that it is going to be inherently violent because it first does violence to nature. You do violence to your own human sexuality, your own human nature. And once you do that kind of violence to yourself, whether it's physical or spiritual and psychological, you're going to see that inherent violence to nature express itself in forms of violence. It's always going to come out that way. This is why they say that abusers or abuse victims become abusers, because that interior disposition that's been wrecked by the abuser has to find a way of expression, and it comes out in that violent way. The violence that was done to them then expresses itself in another form of violence. So the trans movement is inherently violent. And the only way we're going to see our way forward through this kind of problem is to criminalize anybody promoting transgenderism and the trans ideologies.
Ironically, Charlie, last words were responding to a question about that very issue, transgenderism. And symbolically, almost, his voice, his throat was shot at, right? It doesn't also leave me peace. Speaking of formal causes or what's behind this whole thing, that one of the people overseeing to some degree the whole investigation is the governor of Utah. I think it's Brian Cox, right? Who Charlie was very much an opponent of. Actually, I think called for his to expel him from the Republican Party. This governor also was very much in favor of women in men's sports, or men and women's sports, whatever, right? And he's a big promoter of the trans. I think even Charlie tweeted out, like, saying this guy might even be taking millions from the pharmaceutical companies, right? So that doesn't like leave me with a lot of peace, knowing that he's got a key part in this. But who knows, right? Okay, how about this? Another angle here. let me just there's some basic facts, and this was shared by the former director of national intelligence this morning. Okay. And it was General Michael Flynn. Okay. So General Flynn retweeted with his own comments. His comments basically were this timeline and set of statements by the person below from this individual, from Jackson, have to be part of any serious investigation. That was General Flynn's, what Flynn said. Okay. So what are those set of statements and timeline? I'm just going to breeze through some of the most important ones. Okay. That there was definitely a different transformation apart from his assassination. There was a transformation going on within Charlie. Okay. We know this publicly and we know this privately, just on some different things, right? Obviously there was a movement towards the Catholic faith. He did not become Catholic. Okay. Put that rumor to rest. He was attending Catholic mass, that I can say, saw many times myself. Again, from my own conversation with him, some of the hang-ups for transubstantiation, the papacy. It's funny, like he said, like one of the reasons like he could not bring himself to convert to Catholicism was the scandal of Pope Francis.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, not that it doesn't matter. He's still the Pope and you can get around it, but I'm just saying, like, people, if you want to, like, for all you people, your Pope splinters out there who are trying to say, like, don't worry about it, it's all good, we just roll on. This has effects. It really does.
Yep.
It really does. Digression. When we did the Dodger rally in Los Angeles, and there was a Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence that were coming up to show there. It was a big rally. I remember I texted Charlie and I said, Charlie, this is what's going on, and we're responding to with prayerful force. 5,000 people showed up a rally, and we were kind of talking a little bit about like what are the church leaders saying, and he was noticing that it wasn't very a strong pushback from the institutional Catholic Church. And he said, text message, he said, this is one of the reasons why it's hard for me to become Catholic.
Yep.
Let that sink in. And this is what just got on Charlie's nerves a lot. And I'm glad it did. It should get on all of our nerves. The lack of boldness, the cowardice from Christian pastors, bishops, and priests. But we'll get into that later. But okay, back to this. So he was going through the spiritual transformation, okay, on the faith stuff, but also on a very hot geopolitical topic, okay, on America's relationship with the 1948 state of Israel, okay? He was I know he's come out and said, like, I'm always be a defender of Israel, and that was early on, right? And I'm not saying he hated the state of Israel. Like, again, Michael, you and I both share the same opinion, probably as Charlie too, that, look, we want our Christian sites there to be defended. And if it's the 1948 state of Israel, that's the best shot at defending the Holy Sepulchre, Bethlehem, as opposed to Hamas, then yeah, I'll sure. If that's my best option, then I would support right. And so that's how we see it. But anyway, he was going through a little bit in terms of he was a dispensationalist, kind of quasi, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed, right?
Right, yeah.
But he was making movements, and he had a lot of pressure, and I want to lay out these facts and have you comment, Michael. Okay, so he started to mildly criticize Israel the last few months, okay, on different issues, but a lot of it kind of with Gaza, what was happening there.
Mm-hmm.
He also came out and said towards the end that Epstein was probably tied to Mossad. Okay, that was huge. He also, this has been proven, Charlie himself went personally to the White House to ask President Trump not to go to war with Iran, not a prolonged war. Okay, he opposed Netanyahu with this. He according to this, he said that he did not have a healthy respect for Netanyahu. Netanyahu apparently offered TPUSA huge funding. He also got a lot of flack, Charlie did, for some of the speakers that he had at his event. I believe it was in July at the Student Action Summit in Florida. And it really centered around Tucker Carlson. Okay. That was he had a lot of pushback from that. Okay. And then I also want to just stop there and have you comment, Michael, on that from what I said so far.
I don't really have much of an opinion on it because the bottom line is that correlation is not causation. And just because you have a correlated,
and it's important to say that, but I'm just trying to say, like, help us understand the psychology. Keep going.
Right. Just because you have certain statements surrounding the Zionist state and the Zionist movement and claims that there was financial promises for supporting or not supporting or whatever it was, it's not really evidence. It's not even, it doesn't even establish a person of interest when it comes to looking into an investigation of the situation. Now, you did have that crazy guy who was Jewish that stood up and said he was the one that shot Charlie Kirk. But then he later said he only did it because he wanted the killer to get away. Is he doing it because of his religious beliefs?
Right.
Or is he doing it because he's crazy? Or is he doing it because he's also a pervert who was caught this morning with child, you know what, on his computer? So, you know, there are all sorts of factors that you have to take into consideration, and it's not enough to just say, well, this was said and that was said, and so therefore we should look into this. It's not good enough. You have to have probable cause. You have to be able to say there is a tangible material connection to what actually happened. Just because you have a narrative and just because you have a story that ties in doesn't make it part of the story.
Absolutely. But I think in a integral investigation or a complete investigation, full investigation, you got to look at some of the factors that might have been playing around with this. Who might be a person of interest, or what group or entity, right?
If it turns out that guy was paid by somebody to do it, who paid him?
Right.
If you start to find that there was a formal material connection between the Zionist state and Tyler Robinson, well, that's a line of evidence that you can pursue. If somebody stood up and said, I made sure that this happened because I'm part of the Zionist state, well, follow up, look into it. But you have to have people, places, and material pieces of evidence to follow. And just because you have a narrative, that doesn't give you any real evidence to show as a lead. And
it was odd, though. I mean, there's just oddities. There's oddities around this whole entire case. Okay.
Well,
there's
and
oddities
quite
like,
honestly,
why did
there may be Zionists who are celebrating the fact that he is no longer around because they see that he would be an obstacle to whatever they want to accomplish.
But no
But it
causal
doesn't mean they were part of it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, there's oddities like President or Netanyahu just going like on a media blitz immediately right after that, saying, I didn't do it. Israel didn't do it. Like,
Sure.
okay. I mean, President Xi didn't do that, you know. Maduro in Venezuela didn't do that. Like, it's just okay. It's a little odd. And just the last thing, let's play the clip. Because everyone's talking about this August 4th, August 5th meeting with Bill Ackman there in Long Island, where he was kind of challenged a little bit. There are different accounts about how badly, but he was pressured in some way for that's kind of agreed about his stances on the current 1948 state of Israel's policy with different things and how they're influencing America. So let's play that clip. This is him going on the show with Megyn Kelly, in Charlie's own words, the day after those famous August 4th, 5th meetings.
I see what's happening, and it's my job to comment honestly on it. Totally. But I am sick of being lectured on, like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
So this is so important, Megyn. And again, you cannot say everyone in the pro-Israel, and I don't say it, acts that way. But I got texts about you, Megyn, saying, why is Megyn like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megyn's the best. Like, what? Like, she's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megyn? And I at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megyn, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker.
Yeah.
Is that the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay?
Right.
Like, tell me I'm wrong. Cool. Tell me if I got my facts wrong. By the way, on the Epstein thing, Naftali Bennett says he wasn't an Epstein agent. We have to be pursuers of truth. They've denied it. Fine. Let's keep digging. Okay, fine. But the thing that I think is being lost is like on some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megan, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? I'm an American, okay? Like I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megan, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megan, it would be one thing if it was one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? And so, look, I'm afraid because, again, I want civilization to win. I want the West to win. I don't want the Islamo-fascist barbarians to storm the gates of Jerusalem. I want the holy sites protected. I believe in the Holy Land. I love that Jesus walked on water there and rose from the dead and preached in the Mount of Beatitudes. Like I feel the connection to Israel, but at the same time, simultaneously, when the hostile reaction is that now Megan and Charlie are enemies,
right?
Boy, I'll tell you, like you're not gonna, I won't say lose, but you will weaken and just basically deflate two of your strongest advocates if that continues.
Right, and to me, I laugh because it's like I've been bullied by the best of them, the best.
Man, it's just,
and
it's just hard to even
didn't work.
See Charlie speaking like that again. It just brings back, I mean, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. He's gone. Yeah. But Michael, comments on that clip, just again, that's the context of after his coming back from the meetings with Bill Ackman, billionaire, got all those influencers together. He was kind of challenged a little bit about his stances on Israel. So what do you say to that?
Well, you mean in terms of what? I mean, that just the fact that he was standing up to them and saying, look, I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be put into your pocket and held in to espouse your ideologies just because you want to pay me more money. What are we looking at here? I wouldn't say that this is never necessarily evidence of anything, except that
we're trying to identify people of interest, okay, or groups of interest behind that, which would be part of the formal cause behind this assassination. Like, if there are accomplices to this murder, which we do seem to agree on that there are, who might they be? Because we don't have much to go off right now. So we're trying to look at like different, like what was going on in and around him. You know what I mean? It'd be the same if you know, a man had his wife murdered, okay? And we pretty much know who actually shot the bullet. We don't know why, what was around it, who was interested, what was going on in the wife's world. That's what we're doing right now, right? Is to kind of look at that with open eyes and see what was happening. That's all. But
no. And if you have financial transactions to look at, if you've got circumstances to consider, you know, somebody was associated with this whole thing, you know, people are talking about, the people behind him with the hand signals.
I'm not really buying that. I'm not buying that
either. Because the thing is that was, first of all, the big guy, from what I understand, was part of his security detail. And I know that security will oftentimes communicate with each other with their own hand signals. I don't buy that he was giving signals to the shooter. You know, that's just because his hands were moving doesn't mean that he was signaling the shooter and saying, now's the time. That again, correlation does not equal causation. At the same time, you know, you mentioned that Netanyahu immediately, I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with this. Well, you have a lot of these conversations.
And this guy is a liar. I mean, that
of course. Yeah. I'm not,
he's been
I'm
lying
not
through his
saying
teeth since forever. So you're automatically going to, when you hear someone say that, you should question, this is the guy telling the truth.
But look, you have circumstances where Charlie and Megan and others were starting to turn up the heat and saying, we've been offered money by these people and we've been told that they're not going to support us if we don't start supporting their agenda, And then all of a sudden one of the guys who very publicly said that he basically told them to go pound sand, gets shot. Well, of course, you're gonna do what the husband of the dead ex-wife is gonna do. Hey, I had nothing to do with this. Yeah, we had kind of a public blow up, but I didn't do this. Of course he's going to deny it. Of course he's going to come out and say, don't look at me because I know it looks bad, but I really had nothing to do with this. An ex-husband's going to say the same thing. So you have circumstances that you have to consider, but you have to follow real evidentiary lines before you can start developing a narrative. And I think that people are jumping the gun here, so to speak. And it's not healthy. It's not safe.
All things in good measure and just prudence, but looking at it honestly and not be too quick to judge, but also not be too
right.
naive,
if
right?
you want to put it forward as something to consider, I'm fine with that.
Right.
But don't jump to a conclusion and say, yeah, no, we know who actually did it. That's not good. It's not good for your mental state, and it's not good for any real honest conversation about the situation.
It could be a JFK kind of situation too. Like, again, we know now that there were many elements probably about the assassination. There was the mobs that had, or CIA elements. I mean, there was some, he had some Marxist connections, Lee Harvey Oswald with Russia. So perhaps a few. And then Lyndon Baines Johnson, right, was, as Roger Stone put forth in his latest book, that was probably the guy who was the point man for it, pulled it all together, right?
Right.
So we'll see. Time will tell. Now, let's just go to the last cause. So we did a fishing cause, or the material cause, the bullet, a fishing cause, probably Tyler Robinson, formal cause, jury's out there, like a little bit trans. Maybe there's some Israel connections. Who knows? Leftist, whatever connections as well, Marxist, fascist, or Antifa. Again, jury's out there on the formal cause. The last cause, which I think is the most important thing, because at the end of the day, especially as a Catholic, okay, the final cause is like, what was this done for? What was the ultimate goal? Right? And I think this is, as people of faith that we are, sometimes like you can get so lost in looking behind you, which the three causes kind of center on, like who's behind the thing, who did the thing, that you forget about looking ahead. The final cause, why was this done for? Like, who is the real enemy? The real enemy is the devil, okay? Ultimately, okay? Jesus Christ is who we're following, okay? If we have to keep our focus on the Lord, and I mean this not just like in a dumbed down, naive, spiritual way. Like, if we try as best as we can to live the teachings of Jesus Christ as a Catholic citizen in the country of the United States, I guarantee you, your enemies will come and they will track you down. In some way, it doesn't even matter who kills you, right? You're judged not by who kills you, but by who you're following. The final cause, what this was done for, unless you disagree, Michael, was destruction of our country, the peace of society, to create fear, intimidation, to take down a voice of truth, right?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the ideology behind the violence, then what you're talking about is the intention to silence and to put an end to the opposition to an entire ideology that is bent on violence to human nature. If you're talking about the individual, the one who pulled the trigger, his intention was simply to silence Charlie Kirk, to put an end to him simply because he hated him. So there are all sorts of general final causes or particular final causes that you can look at. But I think that at the end of the day, we have to realize that this kid was not radicalized in a vacuum.
Yes.
He was radicalized by an ideology that is inherently violent, not just the trans ideology, but the socialist ideology. And there are certain things and there are certain approaches to civilization that you cannot permit in a civilized culture. Because if you do permit these ideologies, if you do permit these movements, you will cause the destruction of your own culture, your own civilization. So I would posit that there are anti-human ideologies that must be criminalized. They have to be. You've got ideologies regarding death, whether it's abortion or euthanasia, okay? Those ideologies are predicated on the murder of innocent people. So you have to say, no, we as a civilization cannot allow the legalization of actual murder. So therefore, those ideologies pushing that agenda must be criminalized with the act itself. The same thing goes with those who are attacking the human nature on sexuality. So promotion of contraception, promotion of trans and homosexual ideologies, promotion of even worse perversions that are now coming into vogue. Those ideologies have to be criminalized. You can't allow them to creep into the culture. I mean, in the book of Sirach, the wisdom of Sirach identified them as corrosion in bronze. And if you understand metallurgy, what you understand is that once you have a pit of corrosion in bronze, it will only ever spread to the rest of the structure, and it cannot be stopped. The only way you can stop it, and it's very difficult to do, is to excise not just where that corrosion is, but everything around it for a very wide berth. So you have to criminalize these ideologies. These ideologies, these thoughts, these movements in culture should not be allowed to thrive and prosper. They shouldn't. And the government, in protecting its citizens and in protecting its own existence, has a moral duty and obligation to go in and to put an end to any ideologies that are inimical to human nature.
President Trump's been doing a great job with that as far as the transgender issue, and got to applaud him for that, right? But let's shift. Okay, you're right. A great analogy with the copper. Okay, what is the number one? This is trivia for the audience. Obvious. The question is obvious. What is the number one opponent of these ideologies of sin, of evil, these anti-human elements? Answer: the Catholic Church.
Catholic Church. Yeah.
Okay. The Catholic Church. Let's talk about, because you may want to hear about this or be talked about, but I guarantee you, I can tell you from the messages that we're getting on our phone from all over the country, good, bad, and whatever, is people are like scratching their heads and like, okay, let me just think. We have Charlie Kirk just shot. He was, his wife's Catholic. Charlie was praying the rosary at the end of his life. Everyone's releasing their statements of support, and they all go to church on Sundays. Now, a lot of pastors, priests spoke up about this. They didn't have to make a political endorsement of everything they just said, but they could have mentioned his name. They could have mentioned Charlie Kirk or something to that effect. Now, let's go to the shepherds, those who are entrusted with guarding the protecting us.
Right.
What did the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, did they release a statement on Charlie Kirk and anything like that? Answer: no. Michael, you did some deep digging a little bit on what has been said by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops on different issues. What have you found that's people are going to be kind of amazed at?
So we did a search through all of the USCCB's social media to see if there was any mention of Charlie Kirk. We went into the USCCB's own website to see if there was any mention. And the answer is there was only one post on Facebook where they reposted a statement from the Utah bishops about the death of Charlie Kirk. And that's the only thing that was shared. That's it.
Now get perspective on, yeah, go ahead.
Yep. 4 days after George Floyd was killed, or after he died in Minnesota, the USCCB began posting collected statements from bishops and their own subcommittees denouncing the police and denouncing the violent acts against yet another black man and denouncing the violence. And I mean, it was a whole tidal wave of condemnations that were collected and posted and reposted by the USCCB 4 days after George Floyd died. And it's now been 7 days, a full week since Charlie Kirk died, and the USCCB has said nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I was asked by somebody the day after the attempt, pretty good Catholic. He's a very involved in politics, and he shot me a note and just said, "Hey, has the Catholic bishops issued a statement? Can you go check their website? Anything come out from them?" And ironically, Michael, the only thing that came out September 10th, the day he died, and this, I don't know the timestamp, so it might have come out before the shooting, but either way, it gives you a lot of perspective. It was, they actually released, it's on their site today, U.S. Bishops Administrative Committee approves transition of Odd Oak Committee against racism to a permanent subcommittee. I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but like, I have to laugh because like,
okay, you know what?
I'm gonna, absurd. It's just, yeah.
I want to interrupt you right there, and I should stop interrupting you. It's rude, but I'm going to interrupt you anyway. The ad hoc committee on racism it's a misnomer, because if it was actually about racism, they would have denounced the murder of the Ukrainian immigrant.
That's right.
Who went on a train and was murdered by a black man, surrounded by other black people on the train who did nothing to help her. We saw this terrified young girl get stabbed to death on a train and no one helped. And it was absolutely an act of racism, because the man who did it said, "I got that white girl." He said it very clearly and immediately after the act. That was an act of racism. And the USCCB, who wants to say that, oh, we're against racism, had nothing to say about that. So it's a misnomer, because it's not really racism. It's black ideology that they're pushing. It's an agenda. It's an ideology. And it's something that they, the USCCB has become a lobbying firm for hard left ideologies. We know that they've been funding hard left activities for a very long time. In fact, my people right now are going through the USCCB's grants that they've given to CCHD grantees, Catholic Campaign for Human Development, that were actively involved in pushing trans ideologies. Something else that came out recently, the PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, is now implicated in the assassination on Charlie Kirk. And I know for a fact that four that I can think of right off the top of my head, CCHD grantees are intimately involved with the PSL. So now if Donald Trump is going to...
Whoa. You just dropped a little lead there. Okay. You're basically saying, as a potential formal cause or a person of interest, what? Say that group again. What's that group?
The PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Okay, how are they related to the assassination in some way, shape, or
form? They were implicated just recently. Yesterday afternoon, I saw there was a statement that was dropped that the PSL is now an organization of interest in the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Whoa. And so they've received grant money from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development?
Organizations that received funding from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development are intimately involved with the PSL.
Okay.
So what you have is the federal or the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops financing ideologies that may have played a role in the death of Charlie Kirk.
Okay, exactly. We're not saying the bishops killed Charlie Kirk, okay, but we're just saying like these are like cultural forces that tangentially influence people that end up acting out their rage in horrible ways. When we don't hold true to the teaching of Christ, we try to play around with the genders. We're going to create this culture of rage-filled young men and women who act this out. When Father James Martin is allowed to continue his ministry, go to conferences at the Archdiocese of Los Angeles under Archbishop Gomez, when he's allowed a photo op in Rome with the Pope, no correction afterwards, the rot continues, okay? But what you mentioned about the grants reminds me of a book that a friend of ours wrote, Dr. Christopher Mannion, Charity for Sale, which Catholics for Catholics just published. You want to know why? Why kind of like the background story of like, why are bishops speaking up like this? Like, or why aren't they speaking up like this? Kind of, it lays out the history, kind of like how it became such beholden to the government money. It's Charity for Sale. It's called a great book, and also lays out the path forward to free our church so that she can be the voice of truth that we needed to be for society. Why are we bringing it up today in the relationship with Charlie Kirk? Aside from that amazing insight you just said, Michael, with the kind of the potential causation there, or correlation, because again, as I said earlier in the show, Charlie, it was so hard for him. He literally again told me at a previous at the Dodger Stadium event, right around there, he said, like, one of my reasons for me it's so hard to make the switch to become Catholic is because I've seen this kind of like rot on some of the church leaders, or the lack of the cowardice. Okay. Yeah. You want to know why we're doing Catholics for Catholics? You want to know why Michael Hichborn's doing Lepanto Institute? It's not because like it's we're doing this for the money, or you're like it's the best, the safest job. It's definitely not the safest job anymore. Okay, like a lot of us are here on the front lines because we want to evangelize. Okay, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you start. Okay, it matters that you help people get to know Christ. The best way to help people get to know Jesus Christ and get to heaven, or to quote Charlie, I live to make heaven crowded. That's what he said. Yep. Is through the power of the Catholic sacrament. So our whole goal has to be evangelization. Yep. That's it. It's to get people to know and love Jesus. Now, our biggest support sometimes should be the institutional church, our bishops. Some of them are strong. Kudos to the ones that are, and priests that are. But when they do stuff like this, or they're not speaking up and praying, that's why we're like looking, we're not like just tit for tat. Like, did you tweet it out? Did you send out a message of prayer? Okay, you check that box. It's a deeper issue. It's a spirit. I get worked up about this because I know there's concrete people, as we just showed with Charlie, who, you know, is close to the Lord. I know he's got to be close to the Lord, if not in heaven already. We're going to pray for his soul. We don't canonize anybody yet. But, I mean, Michael, is that over the top to say all that?
No, I mean, Fulton Sheen was very clear. If souls are not saved, then nothing is saved. And the sole purpose of the Catholic Church is the salvation of souls, to draw all souls to Christ. And what the U.S. bishops have done is they've turned the Catholic Church into a social political organization bent on promoting hard leftist ideologies. And that is really the problem. They've made politics their religion.
Let's pray for the bishops. Let's pray for the shepherds. They have such power in their hands. The devil flees. I've seen bishops do, when the bishops are in the area, we've done events where
even the wicked ones,
I believe
even the wicked ones.
Even the wicked ones, you're right. I mean, even like we've done events where almost for sure we would have had Antifa show up there, but we had a bishop there who did exorcism there over the field where we stood. I believe those guys run from the power of a success with the apostles. Pray for them and be, you know, slow to judge, but to also don't be slow to challenge in a respectful, holy way. Right. Let's end on a positive note. And I just want to go through a couple messages and talk about, Michael, I'm sure you got thoughts on this too. The mass outpouring of people returning to the church. The death of Charlie Kirk has caused, why? Talk about causal relation or correlation. Why is it about the blood that fell at the Utah campus from the throat of our friend has caused so many people to turn back to God? Here's an example of a note we got. Hey, my name is, I'm going to make up a name, is Justin. I am a current senior in college at Vanderbilt University. That's made up. In my time in school, I've come to radically know and love Jesus Christ, and I want to continue to serve him in my career after college. I think that the Catholics for Catholics movement is exactly what this country needs, and I want to offer myself to help this movement if at all possible. Please reach out if you have any need of a young, energetic, educated, and devout disciple to help this movement grow. I would be happy to send in a resume or have a conversation with absolutely anyone if it might mean I can help this movement. Thank you and God bless you. You better believe we'll be reaching out to you, Justin, and getting in touch with you. Here's another one. Dear Catholic for Catholics, may our tears at Charlie's passing wash away our fears to stand up as tall as he. I cried reading your goodbye, knowing faith deepens as we bid each loved one goodbye, and heaven awaits for those who love him. You Catholics speaking up are the next men up. And I pray for your strength in the days and years ahead. May Our Lady's mantle keep you close to Mother's heart. Keep us informed of what's next. Maybe just one more. Or after a soccer game, 35 minutes away. This is from a dad. After a soccer game, 35 minutes away from home this evening, I asked my daughter to read the new email that popped up from Catholics for Catholics. It was a goodbye from you all to Charlie. At first, my 15-year-old daughter read the content well, but very suddenly, she was overwhelmed with grief for Charlie. She tried holding back her wailing and tears. She failed. She cried that she couldn't keep it together anymore and that she was disheartened by her Catholic school's priest, who assured his students that it was okay if they didn't know who Charlie was, and that it may be a tough day for a few students. She said it wasn't okay because Charlie was to her and this young generation what John Paul II was to my generation. She said it was only Charlie who cared enough to listen to this generation, who understood the stress, the battle, the daily pain of trying to live a Christ-filled life. She made it look easy, standing up to the constant persecution. I quickly realized that my quiet, pensive daughter finally found someone who was more than willing to just not debate, but truly listen, referring to Charlie. And now she's lost her role model. Thank you for giving me and my daughter this opportunity to mourn together. Thank you, Catholics for Catholics, for sharing the lovely recollections. May God bless his church in the United States of America. Michael, final word just on the mass outpouring of people back to God during these times.
Well, where sin abounds, grace abounds the more. And what we can see, and this is the way, I mean, again, not elevating Charlie Kirk to martyrdom status, but when the
lowercase m, right? Lowercase m, like
sure.
Witness in faith, right?
When the early Christian martyrs would die in such a public manner, the hearts and souls and minds of people, even hardened pagans, would see the witness to the love of Christ and the love of God that they had even unto death. And because of that love, and it was because of their testimony, their faithfulness, that they were able to reach people who were so incredibly hardened against the faith that God was able to soften their hearts and bring about conversions. So it's not surprising to me that people are starting to find their way back to church. They're starting to find their way into the faith because of the public death of Charlie Kirk in the midst of his testimony against the lie of the world.
Michael, I've done 2 media hits, we did 3 media hits yesterday. Okay. Both of them, 2 of the 3. First one was Rob. He's a follower, was on Newsmax. He's following Catholic. He says himself, or at least not practicing Catholic anymore, right? He's a really good guy. And I did the first piece, supposed to be 1 segment, and then I guess something we were saying actually was worth listening for the audience. So he's like, I'll keep you to the break. And in the next segment, I want you to explain what the rosary is. Okay, this was on Newsmax yesterday, and why rosary? Because it had come out that Charlie was getting closer to Mary, right? And and during the break, as I was getting ready for that segment, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what an amazing thing. Like, here we are in a national audience. We're now able to literally explain to a non-Catholic audience what the rosary is. At the end of the day, this is everything, people. Like, if that, that's what we have to be doing. Live to talk. So that was pretty cool. And even in the earlier interview, this was like at 4:30 or it was like 5 a.m. yesterday, our time. Panel I was on America's Sunrise Morning Show. Awesome people, love them. Good friends now. One of the hosts asked also just like about they say I'm not Catholic, or I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, not Catholic anymore. And what's this about Charlie? I did this video talking about how evangelicals need to reverence Our Lady more.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty, the host, I thought that was pretty interesting. You comment on that. So here I am, like, talking about Our Lady and using, it was an example of Charlie, a non-Catholic, right?
Yep.
God works in mysterious ways. So you're right. You're dead on right. Where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. Like, this is so hard. I've had days where I have not been able to work. Probably you.
Yeah.
I cannot work. I try to force myself. It's been so tough. Like, my friend from right here in the same city is gone, right? I work with him. We work with him. I know his people. We employ the same people, right?
Yep.
He's gone. But there's such moments of light like this. And I think, I don't know. Final word, Michael. This is the real final word. I promise. Go ahead.
No, that was my final word.
Okay. All right, man. So let's end it with our tribute that we did. It's making the rounds about this. Again, I got to know him personally, and I know there's a lot of insights out there. Like, here's my testimony. Everyone writes stuff. It's great. Awesome. Get it out there. But I wasn't going to share mine. The reason I did is because I felt that because of his relationship to Catholics, and everyone's talking about what was a Catholic, and he wasn't Catholic. His marriage was not validated. Also putting that to rest, that rumor. I would know. I promise you, I would know, because I had the chance to actually introduce him to the priest, who was very close at the end of his life. But I wanted to share his relationship with Catholic, what he thought of it. And so we'll close by watching that video. God bless you, my friend. We love you. We'll be at your funeral on Sunday, and then back on the show next week, same place, same time. Catholic Champion. Let's play the video. I'm John Yep, president of Catholics for Catholics. I know there are a lot of testimonies out there about the great Charlie Kirk, but I thought it important to share mine. I was blessed to have some privileged interactions with Charlie about his faith that I know now weren't just meant for me, but for the world. And so here's my final salute to my friend and brother in arms. Charlie Kirk was my friend. We're both from Chicago. He found a turning point at his parents' home in Lamont, Illinois, a few blocks from my house. His first turning point event was in Rockford, Illinois, where I was born. He knew my parents and brothers. As we joked, we watched the 1990 Chicago Bulls, and our grandmas watched EWTN. After high school, Charlie went on to found Turning Point. I went off to seminary to discern a priestly vocation. Over a decade later, we reconnected at America Fest in 2022 in our new home city of Phoenix, Arizona. Catholics for Catholics was just a few months old, and I was excited to tell someone I looked up to about our tiny new organization focused on getting Catholics engaged in the fight to save America. He was gracious and encouraging of our work. He talked to me of his Catholic roots through his grandma, and then asked me for a favor. He asked me if I knew any Catholic priests he could talk to. A couple of weeks later, he was sitting in the office of a dear priest friend. On his way over, he asked me if I would be in that meeting. I said, no, I think it's best that you meet with him alone. The relationship between that priest and the Kirk family became very close. It became a source of great strength for them during these last tragic days. It was a providential connection that was made, and I'm forever honored to have played a role in connecting this great warrior for Christ with a noble representative of Christ's church in this Catholic priest. Charlie was the kind of guy who would wake up and send you a scripture quote at 7 a.m. in the morning. He lived and breathed his faith. I would, of course, fire back with a picture of adoration from my own time of prayer that day and rub it in that he couldn't be with the Eucharistic Lord. I was trying in my own poor way to witness my own faith and invite him closer to it. We had good debates via text about politics and faith. After his famous debate last winter with Michael Knowles about Catholics and evangelicals, I sent him a long text afterwards as Michael's noble efforts didn't convince him completely about Catholicism. Charlie, I wrote, let's meet up in private and talk about your hang-ups with transubstantiation, Mary, and the papacy. If I lose our debate, I'll make a donation to Turning Point. He responded seconds later and said, yeah, let's do it. Such was our relationship. Yes, we worked together. Catholics for Catholics was the official Catholic partner with Turning Point Action during the 2024 election. We helped chase down 2.1 Catholic voters in the 7 swing states. This alone was something I'll never forget. We achieved the greatest landslide among Catholic voters in U.S. history. I learned a lot from Charlie and his team during this time. They were the pros, and I was taking notes. But our relationship always transcended work. We both loved the Lord. I would see him at morning mass, and we would fist bump on our way out as we both headed to the battlefield of spiritual warfare. One of my last memories with him came last May. I was in Rome, and there was a conclave going on. I was on point to cover it for several major media outlets. When the white smoke came out, I had to make a choice. I knew I had one of the best viewing points to witness history, but could only accept one interview request from the dozen that were blowing up my phone. Who would I go live with? Didn't have any doubt. It had to be on the Kirk Show. Charlie was my man, and I loved his audience. When the words rang out in St. Peter's Square, "Habemus Papam," it was Charlie in the booth and me high up looking over the piazza doing live coverage. I was able to do the play-by-play for his audience on what was happening as the new Pope Leo addressed the crowds. At the end of the stream, I knew it was a bit bold, but I asked Charlie if I could end it by leading his popular show with a prayer. Airtime is limited on shows, and maybe prayer wasn't the best thing to do. But I didn't have any fear asking Charlie. Why? Because I knew Charlie loved the Lord so much. He would approve, and he did. Never mind, it was the worst spontaneous prayer ever. I was cold, and my hand was shaking from holding the phone up for over an hour. I guess that's why Catholics usually just stick to Hail Marys. But it was special in its own way, as it was the last time I was on a show. When the news broke that my friend took a bullet to the neck, Catholics for Catholics jumped into gear. We quickly got 12,000 people across the country doing a live rosary for his survival. I could barely talk during it, as my mind was on his 2 small children who might be losing their dad in some hospital in Utah. During the rosary, our Lord took him home. He died. I was crushed. Stifling back the tears, we knew it wasn't time to rest. Charlie wouldn't do it. We immediately switched gears and began to organize a prayer vigil for that night. I was part of Charlie's church family where he often came. The people there wanted to assemble. Catholics were messaging us from all over Phoenix to see if we could get together to pray. So we did. With just 3 hours notice, over 500 people assembled near Charlie's home with a flock of media there to cover it. We prayed the rosary for the soul of my dear friend and for his family. My last text to Charlie was sent after I knew he was already dead. While I knew he wouldn't be reading the text from earth, I knew he would read it from above. Here's what I wrote. Love you, Charlie. I know you're no longer here on this earth, but I know you can still read this. You would be proud of the prayer vigil we're doing tonight. In the face of fear, when they are trying to keep us from getting together in public, we're not backing down. Tell the Lord and his mother Mary, who you now believe in fully, that I said hi and will one day see them soon. Fight on. And such was my friendship with the great Charlie Kirk. But it's not over. The blood that ran down his white freedom shirt was a witness to the world of his love for Jesus Christ. You truly are free now, Charlie. And friend, if you're worried about your dirty white shirt, there's good news. You are among those who have survived the great tribulation. You have washed your robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. It is time now to honor Charlie's sacrifice with our own renewed commitment to never give up fighting for America, or as he would say, living to make heaven crowded. Your friend and warrior in the fight, John Yett.